I'm giving away this championship belt once we hit 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today. TNA is officially back. Welcome to the Ango Show. We're talking about everything you need to know. I got all the details for you guys. We're going to cover it in today's video. And guys, this is exciting. If you watched my channel several months ago, I told you guys that Impact was making massive changes, better production, better venues, and so much more. It's truly a new era. TNA is back. And the best part about it, my friends, is that I think this is really going to be a big change in the pro wrestling world. I made a video on this for more Ango. I'll put the link down below. I talk a little bit more in depth about how this could give AEW a run for their money. It's a beautiful video. A lot of people seem to enjoy the opinions there. But what's really cool here is that TNA is doing a lot of big things. So first, let's start off with the big venues. Hard to Kill. This is where Hard to Kill is taking place. This is at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas. Months ago, I told you guys they're going to be doing bigger venues. This confirms it. Looks like a very dope setup. And what's really cool about this specifically is that I think TNA is going to be able to fill it up. I think Hard to Kill in Vegas is going to be filled up. I think, we'll see how everything goes around the time, but I would like to make it out there. That would be a very, very nice trip. And I think what's really, really cool about this specifically for TNA is that they're kind of like in the situation where you go into Vegas, you go into a bigger venue, you're clearly signifying it's a new era. What's going to really change? The logo is back to the TNA logo, but they have like a more modernized version of the TNA Impact logo. We know there's going to be a new stage. We know that there's going to be new championship belts. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what are some of the things that TNA used to do that they no longer do now? Well, if you guys watch Impact Wrestling, they still do Ultimate X matches. The X division is still a big priority. Knockouts division is still the same priority. But the real thing that a lot of people seem to mention is the six-sided ring. At this time, there are no plans for Impact Wrestling, TNA, to bring back the six-sided ring. AJ Styles said it before in Table for 3 with WWE that it made them different and they should use it. There's other wrestlers in the past who have talked about how the ring is very hard, like it hurts their body when they're in it. So it looks like TNA probably won't be bringing back the six-sided ring. I would like for them to do it. I know people have, talked about how much better a traditional four-sided ring is for their bodies. Obviously, I'm not a wrestler, so I can't attest to this. I think both of them probably suck when you're running the ropes and getting slammed every single day. But just as a fan, obviously, I like the six-sided ring. Also, what's really dope about this is that the company is not going to stop doing any storylines that they currently have. So while they're going into a new era, it's not going to change the existing stories that they have. They plan to move forward with current storylines, talent, and style, but they're going to utilize the TNA name moving forward. I think this is a great decision, obviously, when you factor in the fact that they have some really good storylines and they're making a lot of good business decisions. I think you got to factor in this arena. It's a bigger arena, bigger venue. This is something where I think they could genuinely fill it up. I think they'll be able to get people in there, and I think people will want to go back to TNA and watch TNA. And I think what's really interesting here is people internally in the UK, they still refer to this company as TNA. Scott D'Amore sent out a press release, and one of the biggest things was that, like, at times people really, really did utilize that name. If you watch Impact, people chant TNA. So, like, they're always going to be bound to the hip with that branding. The next thing is new championship belts. We've talked about this several months ago on the channel. PW Insider did confirm that new championship belts have been completed. They've been created. Everything is ready to go in time for January when they go to Hard to Kill. As of right now, at this time, all the new belts will be debuting at that time. New championship belts, I'm hoping, will take a little bit of that old TNA style and a little bit of that modern Impact style and come up with something that is refreshed. When you have new championship belts, the new branding, the new presentation, the better stage, better production value, when you have all this stuff going for you, it really does signify a new era. This is not Triple H or Tony Khan coming out and be like, oh, we're going into a new era. Like, they're literally showing people this is a new era. What's so interesting about this, too, is with the new championship belts, it's going to be a decision that I think for the company that will be very, very good for them because of the fact that, not that the Impact belts are ugly, not that the old TNA belts are ugly, but when you're showing people it's a new era and you're having these new championship belts made and you debut them, a lot of people are going to be tuning in to the first pay-per-view to see what everything looks like. People will be tuning into the show to say, hey, like, okay, I'm interested. If you got cool championship belts, if you got the bigger venue, if you got better production, and you're already doing the good storylines that you're doing, people will see you a little bit more legitimately, which I think is fantastic. And that's why it's so important that new championship belts come out. And then what's even better, guys, it takes us to the final thing, is what better way to get started with new signings. Now, Will Ospreay has been very open in an interview with Sports Illustrated that he very well could be open. It's a very real possibility to making Impact Wrestling his new home. I actually put out a tweet. I'm going to read it for you guys. I think this is some of the best things that like people could really take with them when they follow me on Twitter. If I'm not trolling or like whatever bullshitting on Twitter, I really like to be serious with tweets like this. WWE has Roman Reigns. AEW has Kenny Omega. TNA could have Will Ospreay. What will further legitimize TNA's new era? New championship belts, new production, right? Better production. They have a sick-ass roster. They have a really, really good storyline that's happening across all their divisions. They got so much going for them. But what would show people that this is a game changer for them in the industry? It's new signings. And we know around this time, those WWE superstars who were released will have an opportunity to go into Impact Wrestling. But Will Ospreay could be the guy leading the charge. Impact has been absolutely killing it with their storylines and match quality, but this further legitimizes their spot in pro wrestling and could even help grow the company to new heights. I can't help but think this has a very legitimate chance of happening, and with Impact having a fantastic relationship with other companies, it just seems like it's a perfect timing and a perfect fit. So, will Will Ospreay sign with TNA? Listen, he could go to AEW. He could go to AEW, and yes, they do pretty well with him. You know, I'm not going to say they don't, but he's just going to be another guy. TNA has Josh Alexander, and they have Alex Shelley, and they have Steve Macklin, and they have all these great talents. They have Rich Swann. They have so many incredible talents, right? And the thing is with Impact, it's like they don't really have one key guy that is their guy. Like, I think people could say Josh Alexander, and I wouldn't disagree with that, but when you look at their roster, it just goes to show you the balance, right? They have a good balance of all the good talent in their company and the way that they're used and the way that they're dispersed on TV. But WWE has Roman Reigns, AEW has Kenny Omega. This could be a massive signing for TNA, and if Will Ospreay is leading the charge for TNA, I do think it is going to be somewhat of a needle mover. Also, I think you got to factor in those potential free agents. What would it look like with Dolph Ziggler finally having the chains off and having the ability to go and do his own creative freedom with this company? What about guys like Mustafa Ali? I want to see Mustafa Ali in the ring with Rich Swann, Speedball Mike Bailey. I want to see him in the ring with Kenta, because you got to remember, Impact has the deal with New Japan. So this is like perfect. Like, you can have these guys come in, work New Japan wrestlers. They could even work New Japan itself. And then if you bring in Will Ospreay, it's just the perfect stuff, man. This is literally so good. The last thing I need to mention is TV deal. I like what they have with Access. Anthem owns Access, but if you're going into this new era, I think there is a better chance that TNA gets a TV deal over the branding of Impact Wrestling. And I can see that being another big part of the reason for the name change. What do you guys think? Let me know down below.